Good morning, students. Today we are going to read chapter 4, A Truly Beautiful Mind. This chapter is about Albert Einstein. He was a great scientist. The title of the chapter, A Truly Beautiful Mind, refers to Albert Einstein. This is a short biography of his where some of his qualities have been highlighted. Albert's interest in mathematics and physics and also his humanitarian attribute, the title A Truly Beautiful Mind, makes one wonder that how can a scientist's mind be beautiful? It is so because in this lesson we come across another aspect of Einstein. He was a humanitarian. He advocated world peace, non-violence, and that is why the title refers to him as Truly Beautiful Mind. Now let us proceed with the chapter. Albert Einstein was born on 14th March 1879 in the German city of Ulm without any indication that he was destined for greatness. Now children, the meaning of the word destined means fate, a predetermined set of events that has to happen in future. Albert Einstein was born on 14th March 1879. He was born in a city named Ulm in Germany. When he was a child, no one could predict that one day he would become a great scientist. He was like all other children. On the contrary, his mother thought Albert was a freak. Now children, meaning of the word freak, it is given there also. Freak, a word used disapprovingly to talk about a person who is unusual and does not behave, look or think like others. To her, his head seemed too much large. At the age of 2.5, Einstein still wasn't talking. When he finally did learn to speak, he uttered everything twice. So children, for your information, Albert Einstein started talking when he was 2.5 years of age. Now the meaning of the word uttered, spoke. Finally, when Einstein started speaking, he used to repeat the words. Einstein did not know what to do with other children, and his playmates called him boring brother. His playmates used to call him boring brother because he remained to himself. He did not play or talk to them. So the youngster played by himself much of the time. Einstein remained to himself all the time. He used to play with himself only. He especially loved mathematics, mechanical toys. From the very beginning, children, since his childhood, he loved mechanical toys, such toys in which some kind of machinery was used, such as automated cars, automated airplanes. Looking at this newborn sister Maza, he is said to have said, "Fine, but where are her wheels?" A headmaster once told his father that what Einstein chose as a profession wouldn't matter because he will never make a success at anything. Einstein began learning to play the violin at the age of 6 because his mother wanted him to. He later became a gifted amateur violinist, maintaining this skill throughout his life. Now children, the meaning of the word amateur, doing something for personal enjoyment rather than as a profession. Something which is your hobby and you do it as a pastime. That means you are learning, you are not a professional in that field. But Albert Einstein was not a bad pupil. He was not a bad student. He went to high school in Munich, where Einstein's family had moved when he was 15 months old and scored good marks in almost every subject. Now, children, Einstein hated the school's regimentation and often clashed with his teachers. Now, the meaning of the word regimentation: order or discipline taken to an extreme. At the age of 15, Einstein felt so stifled there that he left the school for good. The previous year, Albert's parents had moved to Milan and left their son with relatives. After prolonged discussion, Einstein got his wish to continue his education in German-speaking Switzerland, in a city which was more liberal than Munich. Now, children, the meaning of the word liberal is willing to understand and respect others' opinion. Now, Einstein was highly gifted in mathematics and interested in physics. And after finishing school, he decided to study at a university in Zurich. But science wasn't the only thing that appealed to the dashing young man with the walrus mustache. Now, children, the meaning of walrus mustache is that the shape of his mustache was leaning downwards. That is called the walrus. That is the shape of the mustache, leaning towards, bending towards downwards. Science was not the only thing that appealed to Einstein, who was a very handsome young man. Other than science, he had interest in something else also. He also felt a special interest in a fellow student, Meena Marek, whom he found to be a clever creature. So, children, other than maths and physics, Albert Einstein liked one of his fellow students. Her name was Meena Marek. He thought that she was very clever, sharp and intelligent. This young Serb had come to Switzerland because the university in Zurich was one of the few in Europe where women could get degrees. Now, these two met at the University of Zurich. Meena Marek belonged to Serbia. That is why she is called a Serb. She came from Serbia to Switzerland because the university in Zurich was one of the few universities in Europe which gave degrees to female students. Now, let us move further. Einstein saw in her an ally against the Philistine, those people in his family at the university with whom he was constantly at odds. Now, the meaning of the word ally is a friend or an associate. And Philistines, a word used, meaning of Philistines, a word used disapprovingly to talk about people who do not like art, literature or music. To be at odd means to be in the opposition of someone, to be against someone. Now, the couple fell in love. Letters survive in which they put their affection into words, mixing science with tenderness. Wrote Einstein, "How happy and proud I shall be when we both have brought our work on relativity to a victorious conclusion." So, children, let me explain this. Albert Einstein and Meena Marek fell in love and they exchanged love letters to express their feelings. They used to write such kind of letters where they used to mix science and their feelings. At one instance, Einstein talked about his scientific invention and said that he would be very proud on that day when they would finally conclude their paper on the theory of relativity. Now, let us move further. In 1900, at the age of 21, Albert Einstein was a university graduate and unemployed. He could not get the work even though he was a graduate. He worked as a teaching assistant, gave private lessons and finally secured a job in 1902 as a technical expert in the patent office in Bern. Patent means, children, a document which gives the right of an invention to an inventor. Suppose somebody invents something, so patent is given on his or her name. So now, children, let us proceed further. When he was supposed to be assessing other people's inventions, Einstein was actually developing his own ideas in secret. So Einstein was supposed to check the inventions done by the other people and give them a patent. On the other hand, secretly he was making his own inventions too. He is said to have jokingly called his desk drawer at work the Bureau of Theoretical Physics. Now children, let me explain to you this expression, Bureau of Theoretical Physics. Einstein later said the desk on which he worked was the Office of Theoretical Physics because there only he started working on his inventions. On that desk, on that bureau is desk, he started working on his inventions. Now let us proceed further. One of the famous papers of 1905 was Einstein's special theory of relativity, according to which time and distance are not absolute. Now children, meaning of the word absolute means measured in itself, not in relation to anything else. Now let me explain. In the year 1905, Einstein published his first paper. It was about special theory of relativity. In this publication, it was written that the measurement of time and distance is not absolute. It depended on something else. Indeed, let us proceed. Indeed, two perfectly accurate clocks will not continue to show the same time if they come together again after a journey, if one of them has been moving very fast relative to other. So children, let me explain. According to the theory, if there are two clocks and both are moving, they will not show the same time. One clock will move faster than the other. From this followed the world's most famous formula, which describes the relationship between mass and energy. E is equal to mc square. In this mathematical equation, E stands for energy, m for mass, and c for the speed of the light in a vacuum. About 3 lakhs kilometers per second. Now children, you know about this. You have learned about this theory of relativity in your science class. So children, let me explain. This theory of relativity. This theory of relativity gave us formula of physics. E is equal to mc square. E stands for energy, m for mass, of the object, and c for the speed of light in vacuum. To put it into simpler words, Einstein said that when you sit with a nice girl for 2 hours, it seems like 2 minutes. On the other hand, when you sit on a hot stove for 2 minutes, it seems like 2 hours. That's relativity. So a person would feel the timing differently. Now let us move further. While Einstein was solving the most difficult problems in physics, his private life was unraveling. Unraveling means, children, starting to fail. His life was starting to fail. Though he was solving the complicated problems in physics for the world, his personal life started becoming problematic. He started to fail in his personal life. Albert had wanted to marry Mileva right after finishing his studies, but his mother was against it. She thought Mileva, who was 3 years older than her son, was too old for him. She was also bothered by Mileva's intelligence. She is a book like you, his mother said. Einstein put the wedding off. The pair finally married in January 1903 and had 2 sons. But a few years later, the marriage faltered. Faltered means, children, it became weak. The marriage became weak. Their marriage failed. Mileva, meanwhile, was losing her intellectual ambition and becoming an unhappy housewife. After years of constant fighting, the couple finally divorced in 1919. Einstein married his cousin Elsa the same year. Einstein's new personal chapter coincided with his rise of world fame. In 1915, he had published his general theory of relativity, which provided a new interpretation of gravity. An eclipse of Sunin 1919 brought proof that it was accurate. In the year 1919, there was a solar eclipse which proved that Albert Einstein's general theory of relativity was correct. Now let us move further, children. Einstein was correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from the fixed stars would be deflected through the sun's gravitational field. The newspapers proclaimed his work as a scientific revolution. Now, let us see what is the meaning of the word deflected. Deflected means changed direction because it hit something. Albert Einstein had calculated in the year 1915 that there would be a solar eclipse. Due to it, the apparent position of the stars would change to some extent. His calculation was accurate, so it was announced that Einstein's work was a scientific revolution. Now come to the next paragraph. Einstein received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. The Nobel Prize was based on the will of the famous Swedish scientist, a scientist who belonged to Sweden, Alfred Nobel. It was established in 1895 and the first Nobel Prize was given in the year 1901. He was showered with honors and invitations from all over the world and lauded by the press. He was honored and was invited to various places all over the world. Even the press praised him. When the Nazis came to power in Germany in 1933, Einstein immigrated to United States. Now children, meaning of the word immigrated: leave one's country in order to settle permanently in another. 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in an uproar. In an uproar means very upset. So children, let me explain. After 5 years, the Germans discovered the process of nuclear fission, the process through which nuclear bombs or atomic bombs are made. This process was prepared in Berlin. Due to this, all the physicists in America were upset as they feared the misuse of technology. Many of them fled from fascism just as Einstein had, and now they were afraid the Nazis would build and use an atom bomb. Now let me explain. There were many scientists who escaped to America because of fascism. Fascism is a dictatorial concept which was started in Europe from Italy by the rule of Benito Mussolini. Dictatorship, where the leader, whatever leader says, people have to follow. All the scientists were afraid that the Nazis could misuse the atomic bomb. At the urging of a colleague, Einstein wrote a letter to the American President Franklin D. Roosevelt on 2nd August 1939 in which he warned a single bomb of this type exploded in a port might very well destroy the whole port together with some of the surrounding territory. So Albert Einstein requested the President of America, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and he warned about the consequences of atomic bomb. His words did not fail to have an effect. But Albert Einstein's letter had no impact on Franklin D. Roosevelt. The Americans developed the atom bomb in a secret project of their own and dropped it on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. Einstein was deeply shaken by the extent of the destruction. This time he wrote a public missive to the United Nations. Now children, what is the meaning of the word missive? Missive means letters, especially long and official. Long and official letter is called missive. He wrote an official letter to the United Nations organization. In it, he proposed the formation of a world government. Unlike the letter to Roosevelt, this one made no impact. But over the next decade, Einstein got more involved in politics, agitating for an end to the arms built-up and unsigned his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. So let me explain. For another 10 years, Albert Einstein was involved in world peace. He was involved in politics and his agenda was to stop the countries involved in collecting arms and developing weapons. He campaigned the world peace and democracy. His main agenda was world peace and freedom of people. Now when Einstein died in 1955 at the age of 76, he was celebrated as a visionary and world citizen as much as a scientific genius. Now children, what is the meaning of the word visionary? Visionary means a person who can think about the future in an original and intelligent way. Now Einstein could foresee the future. When he died in 1955 at the age of 76, the world celebrated him as a visionary. He was a world citizen and a scientific genius too.